Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This is one of the episodes that I've been most excited about in a while. And what I'm going to do today is walk you real time through my own personal financial CEO party that takes me less than an hour a month to manage my entire finances. Yes, even my business finances, 1 hour a month. This is the process that I teach my clients. This is what the money flow method that I teach inside of my coaching helps you do, is minimize the time you're actually managing your money. So what I have done, I have my financial CEO party checklist, my own personal one. Every one of my clients has a checklist just like this. And I have my partner's phone that he let me borrow with timestamps. So those of you watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see all of this. Those of you who are just listening in your ears, I will tell you the time as we move through, because of course I'm going to edit out the section of time where I'm just like sitting at my computer and vibing. Okay, so as we start, I want to talk about how I'm setting myself up for this financial CEO party. I have a couple of podcast episodes. One's called How to Stop Avoiding Your Money, where I talk about the Get Tipsy protocol, which is how to set up a financial CEO party that you don't avoid. The whole point of financial CEO parties are that there's something fun. There's something you look forward to. They're not something that's easy to avoid because you want to do it. So normally for me, I don't have my financial CEO parties at my desk, but for recording purposes and for the purposes of this podcast, this is where I'm at. So what I decided to do is bring some of those things. I would normally go to a coffee shop, or I would go to a hotel lobby and get a nice cocktail and dress up. I have different kinds of CEO parties every month. But for this one in particular, we're going with hard, cozy vibes. So I am wearing my favorite sleep shirt, sweet RIP big man Jimmy Buffett vintage t-shirt. I have my coziest blanket next to me. I made myself chocolate pancakes. They don't look great, I'm realizing as I'm holding them up to the camera, but they taste delicious. So I made myself chocolate pancakes, which I don't normally do because they just take too long to make, but I made them this morning. I have my coconut coffee in my money mug, seeping in my French press for when I'm ready. I lit a candle, a mango coconut candle. I've also got my money bowl nearby for my witchy girls. Y'all know I am hard strategy and mindset and energetics. It's always got to be both when it comes to money. She is both, okay? So that's how I'm setting myself up to feel like a breath, to feel excited. I get my chocolate pancakes. I've got coconut coffee waiting for me. Hell yeah, let's get into the numbers. Let's get into the math. I got my money spell bowl, my crystals. They're taking care of me, right? So we are, breath, I'm excited. That's how I'm starting my financial CEO party. Now, I also have my checklist, so I can make sure, and again, all of my clients have one of these, where you're going through. This becomes kind of autonomous in your brain once you've done it enough. I don't normally keep my checklist out, but for the purposes of this, I want to be able to tell you exactly what item I'm on and how I'm moving through it, okay? So today is March 30th. Hold on, let me pause while I eat this pancake. Today is March 30th. Usually I wait until after the first of the month in order to do my financial CEO party, because all of my invoices will have been paid, all of my spending for the month will be up to date. But for me, I have a slammed 2 weeks when it comes to April 1st to April 12th. So because financial CEO parties are a priority for me, I was well, I want to make sure that I have the headspace, right? My brain isn't a million other places like it will be the next 2 weeks. So I wanted to make sure that I had the headspace for it. So I'm let me do it on the 30th, because all of my client payments have already come in. I'm not waiting on any income for the rest of this month. And I'm not going to be doing a lot of spending this weekend. I've already gotten groceries. I have no outing plans. This is going to be a resting weekend. So all of my spending will be pretty up to date. Okay. So the first thing on my financial CEO party checklist is to pay myself. Something fun that happened this month is my accountant converted me to an S Corp this year, which means that I'm now on my own payroll. So I get a notification that I have been paid, right? Rather than taking an owner's draw, which I have been doing, but now I'm being paid my own salary from my business. So that payment comes to my personal bank account, right? So it's functioning the same way where I have two money flows. I have one for my personal and one for my business. Ooh, by the way, let's timestamp it. 7:26 is when we're starting. 7:26. Okay. So I have two different money flows. One is for my business and one is for my personal. And I pay myself from my business into my personal. So all that's happening now is there's just two transactions that are happening to pay me. My salary that gets automatically pulled from my bank account and deposited like via a paycheck, and then the owner's draw that I automate to get pulled at the same time to get put into my personal checking account. So all I have to do this month, because this is the first month that I'm getting paid with a paycheck, I normally pay myself $4,000 as a base amount. So I just have to calculate what is my, like, what's the paycheck that's being sent to me, what's being deposited into my account, and then I will just set an auto transfer for the rest of it, the rest of the 4,000 to be pulled into my account and take a draw. So I'm still being paid the same while my accountant finagles what I need to be paid for tax purposes and whatnot. So I had already pulled that amount for this month. I had a little financial CEO party pregame because I knew I was gonna have the CEO party early, and so I wanted to do that math and make sure everything was set to go for this recording for today. But what I just did was I automated that for the next months so that every month I automatically have that full 4,000 coming into my my personal bank account each and every month without me having to do it. We love automation, right? So now the next thing on my list, which it is 7:29, by the way. The next thing on my list is to do my bookkeeping. Number 2 is my bookkeeping. Now, I still do my own bookkeeping because my finances are fairly simple as a business owner right now, because my one current offering, wink, wink, something's coming. Currently, I only have one offering, and it's one-on-one coaching. So it's really easy for me to input those payments and do my own bookkeeping. My expenses are all on one credit card for my business. So I still do my own bookkeeping. I do have an accountant that files my taxes every year and can help me with some tax strategy stuff. But if you do have a bookkeeper, that's totally fine if you're not doing your own bookkeeping, but you should be going through your bookkeeping, through your profit and loss statements, through your expenses each and every month to make sure you have eyes on your business and what's happening. So it is 7:30 and I am going to do all of my accounting. So I get paid two different ways. I get paid through PayPal and I get paid through Stripe. So I'm just gonna go through, input those payments into my Wave dashboard. Wave is a accounting software. It's no longer free. I'm still on a free version because I was grandfathered in from way back when. It's now $16 a month to use this. If you want to auto import your expenses from a credit card, your bank statements, stuff like that. But I really like this. I think it's a little bit more user friendly than QuickBooks. I might change my tune on that in a couple of months when some new things start shifting in my business model. So stay tuned on that. But right now I use Wave. It's great. One of the great things about Wave is that all of my expenses, so I manually input my income from PayPal and Stripe, and whatever bank transfers I get, there's a couple of organizations who pay me straight into my bank account. But what's so great is my expenses, my business investments, all of my software, Squarespace, Calendly, all my fees, stuff like that, that's all on one credit card. And it auto imports all of those transactions into my tracker so that I don't have to do that myself, because that would get real nitty gritty and tedious, and that's what would take a very long time. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through and I'm going to update this, and I update 2 of these softwares. I actually have 2 different businesses that I'm updating. I have one for my coaching business, Brooke Benson Coaching LLC, Not Starving Artists. And then I also have one for my acting career. When I was talking with my accountant recently about how I'm gonna be tracking and managing that sole proprietorship of a business, is having its own accounting, which means I'm tracking all of the expenses, everything I'm spending on my acting career, and then everything that I'm making. Now, what's been really great about that is as actors, we spend a lot of money on our acting career. And so it's nice to see the numbers. And it's nice to know, am I getting a return on my investment, whatever the investment is, right? When I think about paying for $1,200 headshots, what was $800 headshots, $300 for hair and makeup? When I look at that inside of my accounting spreadsheet, I'm thinking about, did I get the ROI, or how am I going to get the ROI on those headshots, right? My return on investment. And something that I've been noticing is like the submissions that I've been sending in on Actors Access, like I actually am getting a big uptick with these new shots. So like I'm constantly thinking about, are these investments worth it? Like instead of just throwing money at my acting career just because that's what you do, or being afraid to spend money on my acting career, like it gives me some grounding data onto what's actually happening financially. Because yes, your artistic career is an art, but it's also a business, right? So I'm going to be updating both of those. Let's go. Bookkeeping is done. It is now 7:47, so it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes to comb through and just make sure everything is done correctly. So the next thing I'm going to do is now I want to calculate my profit. So right now let me move my pancakes out of the way. I'm only calculating just my business, my coaching business profit, just because I'm not making enough money in my acting career at this moment for it to like factor into a real profit and loss statement. I just keep track of that so that my accountant can factor that stuff in at the end of the year to lower my taxable income. But as my acting income continues to increase, then I will be doing profit and loss statements and like calculating profit for taxes for both sides of the business. Okay, so what I do now is inside of this Wave software, QuickBooks can do this too, any software can do this. You can even do this like on your own calculator. You're just going to subtract your expenses from your income, and then that's your profit. And then that profit number is what you are going to take 25% of and put aside in your tax bucket. So let's see what my profit and loss statement is. A P&L is what they call it in the biz world, your profit and loss statement. That just means like, what did you make after you had to pay for all your expenses? So I can populate my own report here. So I'm doing this for the month of March. So I'm going to populate it from March 1st to March 31st. Again, if anything changes with my income or like a random payment comes in that I wasn't expecting, I'll go in and update this. But if I update that, okay, great. So my income for this month was $9,450, and my operating expenses were $2,889.63, leaving me with a profit of $6,560.37. Okay, so of course my income fluctuates month to month to month, having my own business, right, where income is not stable. Same with, my acting career, right? Like income is not stable. So when I look at a month like this, I didn't have a ton of re-signs for my one-on-one clients up, but I am currently booked out with my current client load. So my income, this is like I would say kind of an average month for my income, but I had some coaching investments that I was making this month, not on the highest end that it's ever been, but this is like I made a coaching payment, and then I also had a couple travel expenses, prepping for some travel that was happening next month. So that's what my expenses number is. So my profit is $6,560. So literally all I do, when I talk about like math being easy, hold on, this is my partner's phone, so I'm having to remember his passcode. Okay, Warren. So when I talk about like the math side of this being easy, all it is I'm gonna do $6,560.37 times 0.25. 25% is a good average to set aside for your taxes. So that comes out to $1,640.09 if we're rounding. So that's about $1,640. So what I'm going to do now, knowing that that's my tax number, is I'm going to go into my business bank account, and I'm going to pull it up. Now, I use a bank account called Novo. They're really great. They are an online bank, and they have a feature just like Ally. Those of you who have heard me talk about Ally savings buckets, you know they're my favorite. They have a similar feature that is called reserves. So you can pull money into like a reserve bucket to set it aside for other things. So it's not like a separate savings account, it's just a reserve bucket. So what I'm gonna do right now is I am going to pull what did I just say? 1640? Hold on, now I have to double check. Okay, 1640. I feel like whenever I'm recording or like when I'm on like screen, my brain just takes a little bit longer to remember things. So now my taxes are set aside. Why do we do this? So that tax time is not stressful. So that when tax time comes and my account goes, you owe X thousands of dollars in taxes, I'm like, yep, got it in the bucket. Right? Or when I pay estimated taxes. So I pay every quarter. And so when my accountant says, hey, here's your estimated taxes, I'm like, yep, that is almost to the dollar what I have in that savings account. So it makes it a non-issue when I put that into my monthly habit. So you're not having to like backlog or like figure out what to do with how you're going to save for your taxes that you weren't setting aside because you spent all that money. We don't need any of that. Okay. So next thing on the checklist is check my business expenses on my business credit card and leave that amount of buffer money inside of my business checking account, because what is left over in my business checking account right now is going to get put somewhere. And I'm going to talk about the surplus SOP in a second, which is something that I do after I go into my personal, because we've been doing business so far. So I'm going to move into my personal financial ecosystem, my personal money flow, and then I'm going to decide what I want to do with this extra income. So what I want to say, for those of you who don't like own a separate business and you're a freelancer and you're making income from a bunch of different places, this surplus SOP is still going to apply to you. If your income fluctuates, all that's happening is the income is just coming into your personal checking account right away, rather than it coming into a business checking account and then having to move it. So the system still works similarly, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my business credit card. So all of my business expenses are on one credit card. So I don't have to go chasing down. I don't have to look at like multiple places to see, angel numbers. I love when I see angel numbers. 222, maybe. That was like my last statement balance. So my business expenses are pretty low. Like the ones that I put on my credit card, they're about $200 each month. So all I do is I just review the expenses and make sure that like if I remember everything and there's nothing on my statement that I'm like, ooh, skirt, that doesn't look right? Or like, ooh, something's missing, like what's happening? So all of this looks correct, great, about a little over $200 on that credit card. And that payment is auto paid. So why I said that I'm just gonna leave that amount in my checking account, I usually leave about $1,000 in my business checking account as a buffer throughout, like, after the end of this financial CEO party, there will be $1,000 left in the business checking account. Everything else is going to have been moved to a reserve bucket or into my personal money flow for savings, for extra spending, for extra, right? We don't want money just like pooling in your business bank account for fun. Everyone's buffer number is going to be different. Mine is quite low because my expenses for my business are quite low right now. And the only thing that's auto paid is my personal salary and this business credit card. So at this point, I'm not having to do any like complicated math. All I'm looking at is, because I've already paid myself, because everything's already come out of my bank account and my taxes have already been pulled as well, all I have to look at now is what is left in my business checking account, and that's my surplus. So right now, it looks like I've got about $4,000 that I get to play with this month. So we'll come back to the surplus SOP because that's when we're gonna decide what I'm going to do with that $4,000 this month. Okay. So now I'm going to move over to my personal money flow. I love moving over to my personal money flow. So now what I'm going to do, the very first thing is, which time check, by the way, 7:56. Okay, I know I've been talking too, so it's like taking a little bit longer as I'm narrating what I'm doing in the moment. It's 7:56. Okay. So first thing in my personal ecosystem is I pay off my personal credit cards and I pay my rent. So I make sure all of my payments are taken care of. So again, because my payments are automated and they're already in my personal bank account, I'm gonna log into Ally. Ally is where I do almost all of my personal banking. Thank you so much. My partner just heated up my coffee because I was getting so excited about podcasting and telling you all about my financial CEO party. I totally forgot it was here and it got cold. Okay, so I'm gonna log into my personal bank account. My partner sent me his half of the rent. I have my paycheck that came in, and then my owner's draw is on its way. It's gonna arrive on April 1st. So that's why I'm like, ooh, that number doesn't look right. And I'm like, oh, because the other transfer that I made isn't arriving until April 1st. So I don't do any real spending out of my checking account. All my spending is happening off of credit cards. When I talk about the money flow method, what's real great about it is instead of a firm checking account or a flex checking account, you could swap it out with a firm credit card or a flex credit card. So you can do your spending on a credit card instead of inside of a checking account. So my 2 credit cards that I spend off of are, I have an American Express personal that I use for my personal, just like day-to-day flex spending. And then I also have a firm credit card. The only reason why I do a firm credit card now is because there's a credit card called Built that lets you pay your rent on that credit card to earn points, but you don't have to pay a credit card transaction fee. I do not recommend paying your rent and having a credit card transaction fee because that's not worth it with the points. But this one allows you to do it for free. So all of my firm spending is on a separate credit card, and then my personal spending is on a separate credit card. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going through and I'm paying off my credit cards. So I also have an Amazon credit card, and then I have a credit card that is separate for my acting business expenses that automatically gets pulled into my accounting software for my acting business. So I actually do have I have 4 credit cards in my personal ecosystem right now that I'm actively using. One of them is for firm spending, one of them is for flex spending, 5 actually. I have 2, I have an Amazon card and a Target card that I use for personal spending. That's under the umbrella of flex. And then I have my personal credit card for my acting expenses. So I take those 3 personal cards, and those are basically my flex spending. And again, because I've been doing this for a long time, because my money flow is so tight, chef's kiss, I am able to have an extra credit card like a Target one that I can easily just like check. And when I'm thinking about how much I'm spending in a month, I'm just adding that total and the total that's on my Amex. So my flex spending month to month usually hovers between like $900 and $1,500. And then my firm expenses are usually like $1,700 to $1,800 because I've got like, sometimes I don't take the train as much, right? Or like in the summer, our electric bill like triples because we love the AC in the summer. So that's what it hovers between. So right now, so I pay myself $4,000 a month. So right now, when I pay off my credit cards and pay the rent and pay all of that stuff, it's coming out to about $2,700 this month. So that means I have $1,300 left over. Now, the next thing on my list, which by the way, while I was going and paying off my credit cards, one of the other things I was doing is I was just checking over all of my spending. So one, just to like keep the money muscle memory, like keep me calibrated with my spending and what's happening with my dollars. At the very beginning of my financial wellness journey, there was some like anxiety that would come up of like, oh, I shouldn't be spending on that, or like, oh, that makes me feel weird, or oh, da-da-da. Now all of my spending is very intentional and I'm very present when I'm managing my money at any time I'm doing something with my money. So now it's more for the purposes of, am I catching fraud, right? Is something happening on a credit card that I didn't notice or that shouldn't be there? Or like, is a system getting messy? So for example, I had a $20 charge. This is how aware I am of my dollars, y'all. I had a $20 charge show up on my Amex under a company that I was like, I don't recognize that. And I cannot for the life of me remember like what flat $20 would I have spent on that day. Anyway, I found out it was this company who had like wrongfully charged subscriptions to a bunch of people who signed up for a free trial like months ago. And so I was able to contact the company and be like, hey, that's fraud, please don't do that. And so they refunded me that $20. $20 isn't that big of a deal, but the fact that I can catch that so easily because I'm so in tune with my money and how I'm spending and where I'm spending, and in the moment when I'm spending, I'm so present that I can feel like a $20 charge is off. Like that's what I want for you all. And again, this doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes intention. Okay, so now it's 8:05, and the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a contribution to my IRA. I'm gonna put $700 towards my IRA. I'm right now, my focus is just maxing out my Roth IRA this year. I'm gonna contribute $700 until I hit the limit, and then whatever's left over, I'll put into my solo 401k. Right now, I'm not in an investment push year. So right now, my standard baseline is just maxing out my IRA because there are other versions of me in addition to 65-year-old future badass gray-haired Brooke that needs some investment right now. So I'm actually in a year where my acting career is desiring more financial backing than I've given it in the past. Last year was a business investment year, right? Next year will actually probably be another future Brooke investment year where I'm going to up my retirement contributions, my future investments for her. Just based on, again, we have seasons of spending, seasons of saving, seasons of sustaining. You also have seasons of investing, like which version of you needs the investment. So right now we're just sustaining, maxing out the IRA each year. So I'm going to go ahead and make that transfer. Okay. It's now 8:08. Something I want to note too is I can automate my future investments, right? My retirement contributions. I could definitely automate that, but there's something about manually making a transfer into a retirement account. Oh, I like get emotional as I talk it out. But the fact that I, as a woman, yes, I have a partner, but on paper, I am a single woman. And the fact that I can open my own retirement account and I could put $700 a month into that retirement account and that I am taking care of my future self. And the fact that also, like, me as an artist, I never used to fathom that I could have more than $1 million in retirement, like multi-millions in retirement, which is what I am on track for. Like, that is so baffling to me. And so the manual process of actually making that transfer and seeing that amount go into my account every single month, and also training my system to see it go up and down, like getting my nervous system comfortable with seeing the fluctuation, it doesn't faze me anymore. Like, that is so important for me to keep it manual. So I could automate it, but the emotional part of that is more important for me than the ease of the automation. So that's why I do it manual. That's what I wanted to touch on real quick. Okay, so the next thing is plan my joy purchase. If you haven't listened to the podcast, The Importance of Indulging and How to Make a Joy Purchase, back in the archives of the episodes, go find that episode and listen to it. Making a joy purchase every single month is important. It's a purchase that you are reminding yourself that your money is for your joy and it is allowed to be used for just your joy. It doesn't have to have an ulterior motive, right? So doesn't matter how big, it can be super small. My joy purchases have actually been pretty small recently. Like, this was one of my previous month's joy purchases. Those of you watching on YouTube, you can see me pointing to this t-shirt. This is an old vintage Jimmy Buffett t-shirt, and he had just passed like a couple months before, and it just made me really happy to like have another vintage shirt of one of his concerts. So it was small, but it was really, it brought me a lot of joy. Now, this month, I think my plan is I have two ideas. So you don't actually have to make a joy purchase like during your financial CEO party, but I've got two ideas, and I'm going to let the month let me like decide as I'm going through the month which I'm feeling more pulled to. One is there's a sweatshirt of a Jimmy Buffett concert that happened the year I was born, and it's been on eBay for like ages, and the guy like hasn't been budging on the price. It's like $100 sweatshirt, but I've been really, really wanting it. And so this might be the month that I pull the trigger if he stops, like if he's still unwilling to budge on the price. So I might get that sweatshirt, or I might take myself out like thrifting in Brooklyn. I never go to Brooklyn, but I might go to Brooklyn and do a little thrifting and like give myself a certain amount of money to just like go have fun, go wild, even if it's silly, doesn't matter. Just like go buy yourself the shit that makes you happy. Like put on your kid brain and be like, ooh, this shiny thing that I really want. Like just go get it. So that might be another joy purchase that I make. So I'll decide which one of those as the month goes by. Also, it's my birthday month, so birthday month is separate from joy purchase. So I also have that in my mind. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So what I want to say now, the next thing is future planning for my biz and my personal. When I say future planning, it more just means thinking and projecting about your next month or two, like what's coming up. By the way, it is 8:12. Okay. Time check. When I'm thinking about the next month or two, I'm trying to eliminate surprise, right, in my money. And so when I think about the next month, it's like, do I have travel coming up? Do I have an expense coming up that I'm not thinking about? Do I have like, in the fall, I have my Amex annual fee that's like $700 that I want to be remembering. Otherwise I'll forget. Like I pay my accountant in a lump sum in the fall. I don't have those things coming up right now, but it's my birthday month and I fucking love birthday month. So I've got that in my head of, so after I've paid for all of my things, my credit card, my rent, etc., made my IRA contribution, I've got $600 left from that $4,000 that I paid myself this year. This is separate from the $4,000 that is still the surplus inside of my business checking account. We're gonna get there in a second. So I have $600 left. So when I'm thinking about these surpluses, the $600 left over there, and then the $4,000 left over in my business, I want to be thinking about, okay, my birthday month is coming up and I love to go wild on my birthday month, right? Like I love to just treat myself, get myself everything I want, right? So that's the first thing I'm thinking. I've also got a week where I'm going to be on set for an entire week right before my birthday. And so I'm also thinking about like, how am I going to be feeding myself? I don't know how crazy busy it's going to be. Like it might be early morning till late in the evening days for 5 straight days. Like how do I need to self-care for myself? Can I use my money that week to care for myself? I'm thinking about that. I'm also thinking about like I have a trip to Florida at the end of May. My parents are moving to Florida in June, and I'm going to be wanting to visit them down in Florida during the rest of this year. So I'm thinking about like travel experiences. Is anyone's birthday coming up? Does someone have a wedding? Do I need to get someone a gift? Like I'm thinking that shit through. So when I'm thinking about this extra $600 in my account, it's like, okay, which savings bucket do I want to put that towards? What feels highest priority? Right now for me, that $600 is probably just going to get moved into my festivities bucket inside of my Ally savings. So it can earn just like a little bit of interest while it sits in the account for this month. And then I'll probably use that for birthday things, right? Like as the month goes on, I'll use it for birthday things. Because when I'm thinking about it, like my travel, I've got points I can use for some of those Florida trips. I don't have any like other things coming up. Like when I'm thinking about that extra 600, it's like maybe that's just for birthday and also supporting myself during like the next 2 crazy weeks that I've got going on. So that's my brain for that $600. And then I'm thinking about my business, and I've got a business trip conference coming up that I'm going to need to be paying for the hotel. And I had to buy a last minute, I had to do a flight change in order to get back, in order to be on set on time. So I have that expense that's going to be showing up soon. I've got a re-sign for a business coaching investment that's coming up in May. So those are the business things that I have in my brain. As I'm thinking long term too, I've got a couple of business investments that are on the horizon before the end of 2024. So I'm thinking through these things. As you can see, like, again, if you're watching me on YouTube, you see I'm not like writing any of these things down. I'm just kind of thinking through to let these feelings and these logistics kind of percolate as I think about what I want to do with this extra $4,000 that's in my business checking. So that $600 in my personal checking, I've decided we're just going to put that in the festivities bucket, and then I'm going to use that to support myself during the month of April, birthday wise, and when my life gets crazy for the first 2 weeks. So then with this $4,000, what I'm doing right now is what I call the surplus SOP, the surplus standard operating procedures. So when I have a surplus, when I have extra money, what does it go towards? So I have a list of all of the things that I do with my surplus. This is my surplus SOP. So I have business investments, travel, acting career, IRA, extra investments, and bonus spending, okay? So right now, bonus spending has taken the priority spot for that extra $600. Now, for my business, that $4,000, I could pay myself a bonus if I wanted to. But right now, because I have this business coaching re-sign coming up, because I've got these trip expenses that are coming up, and because I have investments on the horizon that are coming up, I'm gonna keep that $4,000 in my business financial ecosystem, because my personal ecosystem, there's like not a lot, like all of my emergency savings are filled. There's not a lot that I'm like needing to fund that's taking like an urgent priority. So I'm gonna keep that $4,000 in my business ecosystem. And what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna put this money into different reserve buckets. So I've created a reserve bucket for my travel, for my business travel. So I'm gonna put 1,000 of those dollars into the reserve bucket for my DC trip. And then I'm just going to take that extra 3,000 and I'm gonna put it into my future investments. So that's a bucket right now that I can either use for this re-sign that's coming up immediately, or if something else like tickles my fancy that I want to invest in the near future, or it's just gonna sit there until I make those bigger investments down the road. So that's how I utilize the surplus SOP. One of the ways I used my surplus SOP when I was at the very beginning, when I was playing in tighter margins, when I didn't have as much wiggle room, is I had a fund called the buffer fund. So this is something I actually built inside of my business ecosystem too. I call it the buffer. And what the buffer is when you have a month where you have surplus, you can fill up your buffer so that if there's a month where you have a non-surplus, what's the opposite of a surplus? A deficit. When you have a deficit, deficit, right? When you don't have enough to cover all of your expenses, you can pull from your buffer fund. This is for my artists who are constantly like going from gig to gig. There are seasons between gigs where you're not making anything. You can support yourself while you're on gig, while you're on contract, while you're making money by putting money into a buffer fund. So then when you're in between gigs, like I was talking to a friend the other day who he has 6 weeks in between when he got back and when he's leaving for another gig. And so the place he normally works like wasn't going to let him come back just for 6 weeks. So he was like, oh no, what do I do for these 6 weeks? So this is exactly what that buffer fund is for. So you don't have to go into oh shit mode, right? Same with your business. If like you have a flopped launch or like you want to go into a launch not stressed, or you just like don't make as much money one month, you have buffer to support you. It brings you so much ease and safety as you have fluctuating income. You know that you're taken care of, like baseline Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, shelter, water, you're okay. All right, it's 8:20, time check. So the last thing that I do is I have a list that's like March specific that I keep in my notes app throughout the month for things that I need to add on to, like, this is what I do every single month, this financial CEO party checklist. But I have a list. For example, one of the things that's on this list is a couple weeks back when my business coach sent an email about re-signing, I had the thought, ooh, I'm gonna open a new business credit card so I can pay in full and put the entire amount on that credit card. 1, be eligible for her pay in full sign-on bonus, and 2, get a bonus, a sign-on bonus, because a lot of business credit cards have higher spend minimums in order to achieve a sign-on bonus, so that I can also get a sign-on bonus. Let me do that. I haven't opened a new business credit card in a minute. So on this month, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little research for a new credit card, open one, apply for one so that I have it ready to go. This is, again, future planning. So I have it ready to go for, I believe in May is when the re-sign is actually happening, when I'm actually going to have to make that payment. The other thing that's on this list is I need to send my profit and loss statement for quarter 1 for January 1st to March 31st to my accountant. And I need to make sure that is to her on April 1st so that she has time to send me back my estimated tax number so I can make that payment before the tax deadline on April 15th. So I have that on the list. The other thing here is I had like notated last week when I made a flight change for this trip that I'm going on, that's a business trip that I need to come back early for so I can be on set. That went on a personal credit card. That was an accident and it went on a personal credit card. I was just on autopilot, like doing like in kind of a tizzy. And so I'm like, ooh, I need to make sure that I add that into my Wave accounting inside of my business. So because it's on my personal credit card and it's not going to be auto-populated. So now I just go through this list and I complete these last couple of things. So let me pause. I've already done a little bit of research on the credit card. I'm going to go ahead and apply for it. And then I'm going to add that flight change into my Wave software. So as I'm doing this, the other thing I wanted to mention is that one of the things I'm doing too is I'm just thinking ahead in future planning is I'm thinking about, okay, I'm projecting my income-ish. Sometimes it's extremely hard to estimate what your income is going to be over the next month. That's what would always infuriate me about like the finance books I would read or gurus talking about fluctuating income who didn't actually have fluctuating income. I was like, y'all are talking shit, because what do you mean like softly estimate what I'm gonna make? Yes, we can have goals and we can make estimations, but sometimes they're wildly different, okay? So what I want to say is I know I have 2 one-on-one coaching slots that are going to be available for people to sign into at the end of April. So I know that I've got 2 slots that could be filled, right? So I'm going to focus on selling those. I can expect those payments to come through. And then I also have something new coming, secret. It's going to be announced in May and it's going to come in June. So I'm going to be selling a lot during May. And so I know that there isn't going to be a lot of income coming in during that month, but then there will be income coming in June. So I've got that in my head already. So like I'm also projecting my sales when I'm thinking about income goals. Like I can play around with this too in this time in the financial CEO party when I'm future planning. Hey, the new credit card is approved. It will be here in 5 to 7 business days. See, this is why that forward thinking is so important, because if I had thought of this like the day that re-signs were available, it would have taken me 5 to 7 days to get that card to then be able to make that payment. Like I would have lost out on that bonus. So thinking ahead. Now I have time for that credit card to get to me, so I'm prepared for that, right? That's why we love future planning. Planning has gotten such a bad rap from the budgeting girlies that it means you have to like restrict, and it's super like tight and like, right? But it doesn't have to be. It gets to feel really expansive. Okay, so time check. 8:26, baby. Financial CEO party, at least the logistical side, is done. So now what I like to do at the end of every financial CEO party is I'm gonna take this sweet little journal and I'm gonna ask myself some questions. I'm gonna journal a little bit about, sometimes if I'm not in the mood for journaling, I'll take myself on like a good old walk and think. I'll take myself on a real nice long walk and ask myself these questions and just check in of like, how am I feeling about money? Let me say a little thank you to money. Let me say a thank you to my business. Let me anchor myself into why I'm investing into my acting career. Let me think about my wins and my celebrations. So I'm already going through some of these things that I'm thinking about, but some of the questions I ask myself is, how am I feeling about money this month? Like if I had to describe it in a few words, how would I describe it? Is there anything that's feeling sticky? Systems-wise, was there anything confusing? But then also emotionally, was there anything sticky today, like during the financial CEO party, that you want to think through? When you're thinking about like the future and like money in the near future and the far future, like how is that sitting with you? What's happening in your body? And then definitely sitting in like wins and celebrations, like always celebrating the money I've made each month. Because anytime we make money as self-employed business owners, as creatives, as freelancers, as artists, that is a fucking miracle. To make any kind of money outside of a 9-to-5 normal hard quote job, it is a fucking miracle. So even on my lowest income months, I'm like, holy shit, Brooke, look at what you created. Outside of a 9-to-5, look at what you're able to do. So there's like a lot of gratitude that I sit in there. I usually like talk to money. This is where like my woo girl comes out. I love to talk with money and like have a little chat with her and like say thank you to her. And yeah, just like really tap into, let me go on a rant here for a second. Like money is a literal energy now. It's not tied to the value of gold. It is a trust system. So it like, that's not even a woo thing to say. Money is literally energy now, because what cash is doing, and it's not even cash anymore. It's literally numbers on the screen. What the numbers on the screen are doing is, it's like, I trust that you're gonna say that this has value, just like I trust that I'm gonna say this has value, and we both value that these numbers on the screen mean the same thing, right? And so it's this trust system where like, if everyone lost trust in the dollar, the society would collapse, right? So like, we'd be back to a bartering system. So money is a literal trust system energy. And a lot of what I've actually been doing these days is clearing out a lot of the gunk that I pick up throughout the month, especially when you're in an artistic community, when you are an artist, you hear so much, there's so much anger towards money. There's so much anger towards pay rates. There's, especially with the unions, and like rightful anger, right? Like the strikes that we saw happening, the greed that's happening. There's so much shit that is so hard to hear and listen, and it makes us feel sometimes so angsty towards money and that we hate money, when one of the things that I have to do now, one of my like mindset things, one of like my priorities inside of my financial CEO party is I'm clearing that out of like, all of that gets to be true, and that meta anger, that meta frustration doesn't get to touch my relationship with money. Because what I need to do with my relationship with money, like, this is how I'm gonna change the world. Me having surplus, me having a kick-ass relationship with money means I get to launch something new for you all and take a month where I'm really not gonna be making a lot of income, but I've set myself up with a buffer so I can launch something that's gonna change so many more people's lives. That's what my relationship with money gets to do, right? And so there's a million other things that I think about when it's like, what is me keeping my relationship clean with money allow, not just for me, but for my community, my corner of the internet, my artistic friends, like the people in my circle, my corner of the world, right? And so it's cleaning that out. That's been a lot of my work these past few months, is cleaning out some of that anger and that gunk. So that's what I will end with. Is I'm actually probably going to take a walk. It actually looks quite sunny and lovely out today as I finish my coffee that's gone cold again. I am so excited that I got to do this like live in real time financial CEO party. I think we're hitting, it's 8:31 right now. I think we're hitting like almost exactly an hour, which is so fun because I did one of these live, like watch me do a financial CEO party videos that's on Instagram a while back, and my business has grown since then, and I'm making more money now, and my systems have gotten just like there's more money coming into the money flow machine. I also have different goals, but the 1 hour method, the money flow method, still works. It still ends up being less than an hour. And one of the most important things that I want to say here is that now I don't have to do anything with my money for the rest of the month until my next financial CEO party. So I've already decided how much I spend month to month to month when it comes to my flex spending. So all I have to do is like every once in a while, maybe twice throughout the month, I'll just pop into my Amex statement and see how I'm doing with my spending. Because I've been spending intentionally for so long, I could like tell you probably within a $20 range what the balance is on my Amex without even having to check on it, right? Like that's the power of being intentional with your spending and with your dollars. Not restrictive, intentional. And so because if you're using the money flow method and you're using checking accounts versus credit cards, all you need to do is just look inside of your checking accounts to see how much you have left over. You filled your checking accounts up with the money you need for the entire next month. So your bills are automated and being pulled out, and then you have your fun spending flex money to spend out of. Like everything is being set up for the entire month. So you don't have to line item track every single day. You don't have to pull up bank statements every single day or every single week, right? Your money is now taken care of for an entire 30 days. This is so important because it allows your brain to focus on more important shit. When you figure out your money and you make your money decisions one time a month, when you manage it one time a month, there's no more management needed. There's no more thinking needed until the next month. So here's what I want you all to do. I want you to right now plan your financial CEO party for April. So at the end of April or the beginning of May, or whenever you're listening to this, you're going to plan your financial CEO party for next month. Get it on the calendar, right? Make sure you set aside time for it. The other thing I want you to do is get on my email list. Something's coming and my email list is going to be the first to know. So get on my email list. The link for that is in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. And you have heard my exact financial CEO checklist. Go make your financial CEO checklist. Happy financial CEO party day. Happy April. April's energy is just bar none the best month of the year. Happy financial literacy month. It is the year of getting our money shit together in a way that feels fun, simple, and sexy. I love you all. Have a fantastic week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.